and welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Once again, I'm your host, Kenneth Gruenfelder, and it's great to have you guys again here on this Friday, February 23rd. Have some stuff to talk about on the show for today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate and get your comments recognized, make sure to go to the following link. That is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. Again, that really helps the show. Makes the show more interactive between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. Again, that is streamelements.com/gsmcsportsnetwork./tip. And as always, it is displayed on the ticker on the bottom of the show segment down below. So, again, a short show for today. So I'm going to talk about some stuff regarding some wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk. I'll talk about them. And then I will talk about an article I saw on CBS talking about some quarterbacks that could be in line for some big paydays. So with that being said, let's get into the first topic, which is talking about some wide receiver stuff. So there was some first of all, there was some rumblings of DeAndre Hopkins wanting out of out of Tennessee, and I saw it on Bleacher Report. That's why I said that. I don't know what was going through my head there just now, but anyways, so yeah, and he basically just said that it's not true. So he did sign a 2-year deal with the Titans. And, the Titans, it's possible they could cut him, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Because, the Titans, they're kind of in a rebuild mode right now. And, DeAndre Hopkins, I think is a guy that, should try to go to a contender. And, that's why that whole offseason with him was strange last year. But I guess it's just teams, maybe just didn't have some teams didn't have the cap space for him, which is a reason why he ended up opting to sign with Tennessee. And obviously the Titans, they just really did not do well in 2023, and they're kind of in rebuild mode. Will Levis, we'll see if he ends up being the guy. Again, he had a great debut, and DeAndre Hopkins was great in Will Levis's debut. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. But it seems like he doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to stay in Tennessee unless, again, they decide to cut him and he can go elsewhere. Because again, the Titans right now, if you look at them in the AFC South, they're kind of like that last. They're kind of looked at as the last place team in that division. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah. So then some other stuff I saw again on Bleacher Report. It was about regarding Brandon Ayuk and how maybe there's a possibility he doesn't come back to the 49ers, if the 49ers can't pay him. And he brought up, what happened in the Super Bowl in the video. It was brought up about, how he only had 3 catches. And yeah, I go back to the Super Bowl and, I understand that the game plan was, give the ball to Christian McCaffrey as much as possible, which, yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it's like, how is it that Ayuk and Debo and George Kittle, they all really just did not, have an impact on the game? I mean, George Kittle had 2 catches. Debo had 3 as well. And then, of course, you have Brandon Ayuk, tweeting or posting on his Instagram story, something. I guess taking a shot at the 49ers. I guess that, what did it say? It said, don't forget who got you there, right? It was something along the lines of that. But, that you don't want to see that. And listen, I think the 49ers, I mean, they're going to find themselves back, in that position. If they're healthy next year, because again, I mean, you go back to 2020 when they dealt with so many injuries. If they're healthy, I mean, they're going to find themselves back, in at least the NFC Championship game next year. And listen, they came close to losing both playoff games before the Super Bowl. But, they got a ton of talent. If everybody comes back for next year and they go on another run, I mean, they're going to find themselves, I think, in the NFC Championship game. Because right now they're still looked at as the best team. I mean, you have the Lions, who are, going to have something to say about that because obviously they had the 49ers. They had them. They were up by 17, and then they blow the lead. Um, the Packers, again, that was another team that almost beat them. It's the conference is going to be tougher, but I still look at the 49ers as the class of the NFC. And then we'll see if Philly's better, and I guess you could throw in Dallas, of course, but I mean, obviously I've talked about Dallas, how I just don't think they're going to take that next step unless major changes are made. But the 49ers, they got to keep their guys, and it's going to be interesting, with him and with Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. You want to keep this whole core together, because I mean, they've been right there. It's just they can't get the job done. But I mean, listen, like you lose to Mahomes, twice. I mean, 2020 they got hit with a ton of injuries. 2021 you lost to eventually the Super Bowl champs and the Rams. Against the Eagles in the championship game, Brock Purdy gets hurt, and who knows what happens if he doesn't get hurt. I really would love to have seen how that game would have played out if he didn't get hurt. I don't know if the 49ers would have won, but because like they were moving the ball a little bit before Purdy got hurt. I mean, like really a little bit, like because again, it only the drive. He got hurt after their first drive. Well, during their first drive. But I just would have, because the Eagles obviously, this year were a different team, and especially after they played the 49ers and they just kind of went on a tailspin after that. I really would have loved to have seen how that all would have went, but that ended up not happening. But with like I said, with Purdy playing the whole game in the championship game. But yeah, I mean, we saw them play each other in the regular season, and 42-19 happened. But I don't think that would have happened in the championship game. But with Ayuk, listen, he I mean, you go back to his second year. I mean, it looked like he was like a non-factor in the beginning of the year, and he was in Kyle Shanahan's doghouse. They just, for some reason, he just wasn't playing. Then, like, towards the end of the year, he started producing. Then 2022 was good. This year was good. He deserves to get paid. And it's going to be up to the 49ers. Are they going to be able to do that? So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, that was just something else I wanted to mention. So, yeah, there's that. There's Ayuk, DeAndre Hopkins. Also, some stuff regarding Jalen Waddle. So I guess there's maybe some people out there that want him to get traded. And I know Tyreek Hill was kind of speaking out on it, saying no, that should not happen. So I'm interested as to why that's the case. Now, I know Waddle this year, I think he missed some time with injury. Actually, I wanted to pull up his stats, which it doesn't make sense, I guess, right now because I mean, you want to keep all these guys together, for Tua. So actually, oh yeah, Waddle did finish with over 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. But I thought he missed some time. Did he miss it? Yeah, he did miss. He did miss a game. It looks like. Yeah, I didn't even think he had 1,000 yards, and he only had 4 touchdowns. But I mean, look at what Tyreek Hill did. But yeah, I don't know where that came from. That apparently, I guess maybe there's people out there that might want Waddle to be traded. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening with the Dolphins. I know. Yeah, so Tyreek Hill basically said it'd be ludicrous. So this is what Tyreek Hill tweeted. He said, "My boy Waddle is the future. He's better than I was at this point in his career, and for people in this fan base to want to trade him is ludicrous." Yeah, so I don't know where that's coming from. That people want him to get traded. And also, like, Tyreek Hill talked about retirement. Like, he's not going to be around. Waddle is the future. So, you don't want to get rid of him. Um, because again, Tyreek Hill's not going to be around forever. I mean, again, he talked about retirement. So um, yeah, I don't know where that was coming from, but that was something else that I just thought was interesting. That there's people that want to trade Waddle. Um, but and we'll see because again, we'll talk about it in the next segment. But there's quarterbacks that are in line for some paydays, and Tua is one of those quarterbacks. Whether the Dolphins are going to do that or not remains to be seen. Um, but for the Dolphins, I mean, you want to keep all those guys together. I mean, the Dolphins. Listen, the Dolphins have a lot of talent on this team. Um, and I think, and it's the same thing with the 49ers. Like, you don't want to, um, you know, trade away that talent unless they're going to hold out and they want to get paid. Which the Waddle and Ayuk thing are two separate things. This is just fans wanting to trade Waddle and Ayuk. We'll see what ends up happening there. But yeah, it's just stuff to keep an eye on. And again with the DeAndre Hopkins stuff, we'll see if he ends up getting released if that ends up happening. But he said he wants to stay in Tennessee, so um, we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, I mean those are kind of the three things that I just wanted to touch upon as well. I mean, there's some other things I know. I'll bring up Saquon Barkley again. So apparently he followed a lot of the Texans players uh, on social media. So that's something to keep an eye on. Because I did say I would love to see him go to the Texans because running back is something that they need to address. And again, there's a lot of big names when it comes to the free agents with the running back position. I mean, you got Derrick Henry, you got Saquon, Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler. I mean, again, you could see possibly Kamara. I mean, and Aaron Jones maybe getting cut. So you'd add them to the mix. I mean, again, at one point, all these guys were like first round picks in fantasy, and now they're all going to be free agents, um, possibly. And then you also have Tony Pollard as well. If the Cowboys don't bring him back, DeAndre Swift. There's a lot of big names out there at the running back position. Um, the Texans are one of those teams that I think it's safe to say they will add one of those running backs. Um, Actually, well, I don't really know. To be honest, I don't know, but I feel like they should. Maybe they get one, and then maybe you draft one, because that's something they were missing. And you want to have a balanced offense. I mean, yeah, C.J. Stroud is great, but I mean, he could be even better if you have a running game that complements him. So yeah, I mean, we'll just have to wait and see, what happens, but yeah, there's a lot of free agents, a lot of big name free agents that are running backs. Um, so that's another thing to keep an eye on. But yeah, again, this is kind of a weird day because I again did the baseball podcast just before this with Sam, and well, my final baseball podcast as the host, and then this show is only going to be two segments because again, now with everybody like starting their shows, there's like I really only have my time slot, so that's why we were kind of like, okay, you could do half of baseball, half football today. So that's kind of what today is. So if you missed it, make sure to check it out. It was a lot of fun doing the show with Sam. But yeah, that's basically how today was going out. So that's why like this show's kind of started a little bit later and it's gonna end later, but it's only two segments. So, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much it when talking about this. Let me know what you guys think about the Dolphins fans supposedly wanting to trade Waddle and the Brandon Ayuk situation on if what's gonna happen there. Could that unravel and he ends up leaving? And then also along with that, uh, yeah. But that's pretty much it when regarding these topics here. So when we come back from our first break of the show, we're gonna talk about well, also I forgot to say the DeAndre Hopkins stuff as well. If the Titans should keep him, if they should get rid of him, let me know. But yeah, so when we come back from our first break of the show, we will talk about quarterbacks that'll get paid. An article I saw on CBS that just talked about some guys. I mean, guys I already talked about during the week: Baker Mayfield, Dak Prescott, those guys, but and some other guys as well that could be in line for some paydays. Um, and that is what we will do when we come back. So stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.